Hello, I'm Sherry Jacobs, and if you're tuning in, this is week 3 of our 4-week series of Art Heals with Interurban Art House. And I'm so happy to see you again today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the last 2 weeks. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of perception. And what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a few different options for how to execute that. I think in our video here, I'm going to start with the instructional part. And as we're working, I have more information to share just on current topics around the idea of creativity and perception and seeing or looking versus seeing. So in your art kit, I already took mine out, you probably have a bag with paints, a small canvas, a little maze, 2 paintbrushes. You might also, as you're getting ready, find if you have a ruler handy, that might be helpful. If you have a pencil or a pen around, that would be great. Another option, if you are not interested in painting, is to use your drawing pad to execute the same idea that we're going to do. I'll give you a few different options. If you are painting, you might want to grab a paper towel, a cup that you can put your paintbrushes in, and this is acrylic paint, meaning if it gets on your clothing and you don't catch it while it's wet, it will stain your clothes and it will forever be that particular color. So you might want to put on an apron or roll up your sleeves and create a space that you can get a little bit messy if we choose to go that route. So the topic we're going to think about, we could just paint and that would be nice, but art therapists always like to take ideas and stretch them further so that we have some type of creative or emotional piece behind it. And so my idea of using a maze, which what we're going to do is we're going to use this as our template, and I'll give you a few different options. But the idea behind it is to think about perception and just things we're stuck in, places in our lives where we're stuck. And the perception we're going to think about in this is we might think of ourselves either in the maze, and when you're in a maze, if you've ever been in a corn maze or a type of maze like a garden that you're walking through that has high bushes so you don't know what's around, or even like the Harry Potter tournament that they were in a scary maze, it's very hard and there's a lot of uncertainty knowing how to get to the end. In our imagination, when we can pull ourselves above the maze, what happens is we can see the whole story. We can see the beginning, the middle, and the end. It looks a little less scary. And I hope that what this painting does today is it can help kind of create a sense of perception shifting, so that if there is a place in your life that you're feeling stuck, like you're in the maze, this metaphor can help you see above the maze or above the problem, to almost look at a bird's eye view. And I'll go more into it after I explain how to do this. But really, this is a great metaphor for explaining how the human mind can shift our perception pretty quickly with a little bit of guidance or a little extra looking or a little extra thinking. And that's the idea, is that we, in our imaginations, could be in the maze or out of the maze looking above it or in it. So that's the idea. And again, I'll go back in a few minutes and give you more thoughts about what the scientists and what biologists are saying about this whole idea of perception, which is an emerging topic in the art world. But let's start with some instructional part of this first. So I made these little mazes on my Cricut, so they're kind of flopsy, flimsy. And there's a few different ways to tackle this. One way is you might simply take the template, place it down on your canvas. You could tape it down, you could hold it down. And what I did was I kept it down and I very gently drew around the template or the stencil so that I have this maze to work from. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is you might choose to take your paint, I give everyone 2, take your light color first, cover your entire canvas with the paint, And so the way I would do that, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to open up my paint and, I'm going to use my brush. This is a little bit big, so you might want to pour it onto a plate. I'm just going to sort of dip my brush into it. Or actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pour it on straight onto the canvas. I'm going to get a little bit messy here. And I'm just going to simply put a base layer onto my canvas like this. This is a nice big, these foam brushes are great for spreading the paint around. You might see with acrylic paint, it goes on a little bit light. Acrylic paint tends to dry very quickly over a course of a few minutes. I want my base layer to be a little bit darker than that, so I'm going to give a second layer for it once I cover the whole thing. One trick that artists sometimes do is they paint the sides of the canvas too, just to give it a finished look. So feel free to do that. I'm going to go all around the sides. It does get a little bit messy. Okay, so there's something very soothing about painting and just painting a simple thing. I'm actually going to pour my paint again. Ready? A little bit dangerous if you don't like paint going all over the place. You might choose to wait for the first layer to dry completely, or you might be like me and just dump it on to add more paint. Whatever you choose is fine. And hopefully you like the colors that you received and like the matching of the colors. Acrylic paint, again, because it dries quickly, if you leave your brush out, it will dry quickly on your brush and ruin your brush. So I always, if I'm not using my brush, I put it in the water so that when I get ready to clean it, it will still be wet. I'm gonna put that aside. I'm gonna wait for this to dry for a few minutes. And then